Welcome to part one of a three-part documentary series exploring the most astonishing records from the ancient world. Feats of creativity, innovation and resilience that continue to amaze us today. In this series, we travel across time to uncover 30 unforgettable records that prove ancient people were anything but primitive. They were pioneers. From the first written word to monumental temples and timeless mysteries, we'll reveal the legacy of civilizations that still echo in our modern world. This is Episode 1, Ancient Origins. Firsts that changed the world. Long before skyscrapers pierced the sky and machines whispered code, there was a spark. A spark of thought, of creation, of civilization. These are the firsts, the foundations that still shape our world today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to catch every chapter in this three-part journey. And stick around. Later in this episode, you'll discover how ancient surgeons performed skull surgery over 9,000 years ago, and their patients survived. Ready to be amazed? Let's explore ancient firsts, where even the simplest ideas helped build the world we live in today. Oldest known writing, Sumerian cuneiform. Roughly 5,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia, a revolutionary form of communication emerged, cuneiform. Developed by the Sumerians, it's the oldest known system of writing. Using a wedge-shaped stylus, scribes pressed characters into wet clay tablets to record everything from grain shipments and legal rulings to hymns and epic tales. This was more than scribbles, it was structure. Writing allowed societies to create records, coordinate complex economies, enforce laws, and pass on religious teachings and cultural stories. For the first time in human history, knowledge could be preserved beyond a single lifetime, stored, transmitted, and built upon. It was the spark that made history possible. The significance of cuneiform goes far beyond its age. It represents the birth of recorded thought and the power to communicate across generations. It laid the groundwork for all later forms of writing, from Egyptian hieroglyphs to the Latin alphabet. Without writing, civilization as we know it could not exist. It enabled cooperation, governance, storytelling, and science. Cuneiform didn't just change how people communicated, it gave humanity a voice that could outlast death. It marks the moment we began to think across centuries, and through it, the first words of civilization were carved into the clay of time. First written story, Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh isn't merely old, it's the oldest known surviving work of literature dating back more than 4,000 years. Written in Akkadian on clay tablets and rediscovered in the ruins of Nineveh in the 19th century, it is a foundational pillar of human storytelling. The narrative follows the mighty but flawed king Gilgamesh and his wild companion Enkidu as they battle monsters, challenge the gods, and grapple with mortality. When Enkidu dies, Gilgamesh is shattered, prompting a soul-searching journey to unlock the secret of eternal life. Along the way, he learns that legacy, not immortality, is what gives life meaning. The epic has been translated into dozens of languages and studied in schools and universities across the globe. Its influence stretches across millennia, inspiring themes in later works like the Iliad, Beowulf, and even modern superhero tales. Its poetic structure, archetypal characters, and philosophical questions about friendship, fate, and the afterlife continue to resonate with audiences today. In many ways, Gilgamesh is humanity's first recorded attempt to confront the ultimate questions: who are we? Why do we die? What makes a life worth living? Its survival through time is a literary miracle and a testament to the enduring power of storytelling. Oldest law code, Code of Ur-Nammu. Before Hammurabi carved his legal legacy in stone, another lawgiver wrote the earliest known rules of civilization, Ur-Nammu. Around 2100 BCE in the city of Ur, the Code of Ur-Nammu was inscribed in Sumerian cuneiform on clay tablets. It holds the record as the oldest surviving legal code in human history. What sets it apart is its progressive philosophy for its time. It emphasized justice through restitution rather than retribution. Instead of an eye for an eye, it often prescribed fines as punishment, aiming for fairness and social order. The code includes more than 30 laws, covering issues like theft, adultery, false accusations, and the rights of slaves and women. For instance, it outlines compensation for physical injury and legal consequences for false testimony, principles still reflected in many legal systems today. Some of the preserved laws remain clearly translated and astonishingly relevant, showing the roots of concepts like due process and legal equity. This wasn't arbitrary rule, it was a thoughtful framework meant to unify a complex society. It proves that even over 4,000 years ago, people were trying to create a more structured, just, and stable world, laying the groundwork for legal traditions that still echo through modern courts. First known peace treaty, Treaty of Kadesh. For much of history, war has shaped the rise and fall of empires. One of the most intense rivalries of the ancient world was between Egypt and the Hittite Empire, two superpowers vying for control over the rich region of Syria. Tensions boiled over at the Battle of Kadesh around 1274 BCE, where Pharaoh Ramses II led Egyptian forces into a massive and bloody confrontation with the Hittite king Muwatalli II. Though both sides claimed victory, the conflict resulted in years of further skirmishes and mounting losses. Eventually, with both empires facing internal pressures and external threats, diplomacy prevailed. In 1259 BCE, Ramses II and King Hattusili III, Muwatalli's successor, negotiated and signed what is now considered the world's oldest surviving peace treaty, the Treaty of Kadesh. The terms were revolutionary: mutual defense clauses, extradition agreements, and formal recognition of borders. It ended hostilities and ushered in decades of peace and cooperation. Etched in stone in both Egyptian hieroglyphs and Akkadian cuneiform, it holds a record not just for its antiquity, but for being a beacon of diplomacy. Today, a replica resides in the United Nations, a 3,000-year-old reminder that peace can endure. Oldest surgery, Neolithic trepanation. Imagine using nothing but a sharpened piece of stone to drill into a human skull, without modern tools, anesthesia, or antiseptics. And the patient survives. This was trepanation, the oldest known form of surgery, practiced over 9,000 years ago during the Neolithic period. Archaeologists have discovered hundreds of ancient skulls across Europe, Africa, and South America, bearing perfectly round holes with clear signs of healing, showing that patients not only endured the procedure, but often recovered. The purpose of trepanation remains a mystery. It may have treated head trauma, epilepsy, or mental illness, or served spiritual purposes to release malevolent forces. Regardless of the reason, the results are astounding. To perform such a risky, delicate operation with rudimentary tools required deep anatomical insight, confidence, and care. This practice demonstrates that early humans were far more advanced in their understanding of the body and their commitment to healing than we often give them credit for. It's a striking record of ancient medical innovation and human resilience, challenging the notion that prehistoric medicine was purely primitive. Oldest medical text, Edwin Smith Papyrus. Written around 1600 BCE, but likely based on texts centuries older, the Edwin Smith Papyrus is the oldest known surgical document in existence. Unlike most ancient medical writings filled with magic and incantations, this Egyptian treatise is different. It presents logical case studies, injuries to the head, spine, and chest, complete with diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment plans. Some treatments are surprisingly advanced, bearing striking resemblance to modern triage systems. But beyond the medicine, this papyrus stands as a bridge across time, proof that even thousands of years ago, humans sought to understand, preserve, and communicate their knowledge for future generations. In a world without printing presses or digital archives, the fact that such texts survived at all is a miracle. Their content reveals not just medical insight, but a deeper truth. The written word is humanity's way of thinking out loud through the centuries. The Edwin Smith Papyrus shows us that ancient Egyptians weren't just healers, they were historians of the human body. It's a record that fundamentally changes how we view the ancient world, not as a place of blind superstition, but as a cradle of empirical knowledge and intentional legacy. First urban sanitation, Mohenjo-Daro. When we think of ancient engineering marvels, we often picture pyramids or aqueducts. But in the city of Mohenjo-Daro, built around 2600 BCE, a quieter and more intimate revolution was underway: urban sanitation. The Indus Valley civilization engineered covered drainage systems, private toilets connected to brick-lined sewers, and public waste removal infrastructure. These weren't isolated features for elites. Every home had access to sanitation. Streets were laid out in a grid system, with manholes and slope-graded drains showing signs of sophisticated civil engineering. What makes this so astonishing is how closely it mirrors the values and infrastructure of modern cities. The idea that people 4,600 years ago prioritized cleanliness, hygiene, and the efficient movement of waste is a powerful reminder that the basics of public health are not new, they are ancient. Plumbing and sanitation are often invisible, but they are foundational to civilization. The systems pioneered in Mohenjo-Daro connect directly to the ways we live today, from flushing toilets to city planning. It's a record of how the past flows into the present, literally. This wasn't just about hygiene. It was about dignity, community, and a profound understanding of what makes urban life possible. Earliest map, Babylonian world map, Imago Mundi. In a small clay tablet dated to the 6th century BCE, the Babylonians attempted something extraordinary. They mapped the known world. Called the Imago Mundi, it is the earliest surviving map of the earth. At its center sits Babylon, encircled by neighboring regions and framed by an ocean ring. Beyond that lie distant, often mythical lands, places both real and imagined. But this map wasn't just about geography. It was a reflection of belief, identity, and ambition. It shows how ancient people combined observation with imagination to define their world and their place within it. The importance of this map goes far beyond lines and labels. It marks the beginning of humanity's quest to understand and document the world. It shows the urge to explore, to categorize, and to share that knowledge with others. Maps like these planted the seeds for global navigation, trade, and cultural exchange. They allowed information to travel across generations and empires. In many ways, this simple clay tablet helped spark humanity's relentless drive to explore beyond the horizon. It's a direct ancestor of the GPS in our pockets, and a symbol of how the desire to know and connect has always driven civilization forward. Oldest woven textiles, Çatalhöyük and Swiss lakes. Before writing, before monuments, there was fabric. In Çatalhöyük, one of the oldest known human settlements, and around the lakes of prehistoric Switzerland, archaeologists found impressions of woven cloth on pottery and preserved textile fragments. These artifacts date back more than 7,000 years and represent the earliest evidence of textile production in human history. Made from materials like linen and wool and dyed with natural pigments from plants and minerals, these fabrics required not just manual labor, but sophisticated planning, pattern making, and early mathematics. The ability to produce textiles marked a turning point for human civilization. It meant protection from the elements, the ability to migrate to colder climates, and a new form of personal and cultural expression. Textiles became a foundation of trade, social identity, and even spiritual life. The methods and materials may have changed, but the human need to clothe ourselves, and to do so with intention, remains constant. Today's global fashion industry, technical fabrics, and even artistic traditions owe their roots to these ancient beginnings. These early weavers didn't just create garments. They wove the threads of humanity's shared journey toward creativity, dignity, and survival. First standardized weights and measures, Harappan civilization. Fair trade requires trust, and trust begins with standardization. Around 2600 BCE, the Harappan civilization developed what is now recognized as the earliest known system of standardized weights and measures. Craftsmen carved uniform cubic stones from chert and marked them in precise ratios, often 1:4, across their trade network. These weights were not randomly made. They were calibrated to such accuracy that modern testing shows deviations as small as a fraction of a gram. The origins of this system likely emerged from practical needs. Merchants required fairness in transactions, city planners needed consistency in construction, and farmers needed to distribute resources evenly. By creating common standards, the Harappans laid the foundation for reliable commerce, equitable trade, and organized urban life. These standards were the building blocks of a complex economy and an ordered society. What's astonishing is how this practice connects to our world today. Every aspect of modern life, from engineering and architecture to shipping, science, and even the global economy, relies on standardized measurement. The Harappans pioneered a concept so essential, it remains embedded in the daily function of civilization. Their system is more than a historical milestone. It's a silent but enduring legacy of how structure and precision enabled humanity to build, trade, and thrive. From writing and surgery to sanitation and trade, these ancient innovations weren't random strokes of luck. They were calculated, courageous, and profoundly human. These were the first sparks of civilization, moments when people dared to define order, preserve knowledge, and connect across generations. They remind us that the drive to improve, to understand, and to build didn't begin with us. It began thousands of years ago, etched in clay, woven in fabric, and measured in stone. If these ancient records amazed you, there's more to come. Episode 2 dives into the towering achievements of ancient empires, their engineering marvels, military feats, and awe-inspiring monuments. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay on this journey through time. And if you want to help us keep telling stories like this, consider leaving a super thanks to support the channel. History isn't just behind us, it's the foundation beneath us. Let's keep exploring it together.